I'm here at ACT Expo in Las Vegas. You can see behind me the Sphere and the Vegas Loop. And I'm gonna walk through the vehicles in the ride and drive. I did a live version of this yesterday, but it was kind of shaky. I wasn't always the steadiest with the camera, so I'm gonna do it again in horizontal format. And I'm gonna start at the other end because they're cleaning the trucks, getting ready for people to drive them. And I'm gonna start then with Tesla on the opposite side. Admit it, this is what you wanted to see anyway. Not one Tesla Semi, but two. And in a little bit, I'm gonna show you a third Tesla Semi. Not exactly. Well, this is the, obviously, Tesla Semi. It's rated at a GVWR of 82,000 pounds. They give them an extra 2,000 pounds of weight rating because the batteries are heavier in a battery electric vehicle. That's a decision by the government. This is a tri-motor, about 1,020 horsepower. We'll go around the back. One of the things I had to confirm, just looking at one up close, they have indicated, Elon indicated, that they might offer a sleeper cab in the future. And you can see there's definitely a lot of room in the back here. These two boxes, at least that one, is just for storage of whatever gear you might need to operate the truck. So this vehicle is ready here for driving. In order to drive these semi-trucks, these heavy-duty trucks, you need a CDL license. So for me, I just got to go for a ride, so to speak. Down here, coming around the back, you can see this is the rear motor. That is the continuously operating motor. And then to the front of that, there are two motors on the front axle that get engaged and disengaged as needed to provide additional power. So those are the acceleration or the performance. This has about 900 kilowatt hour battery. Musk has not said, Tesla has not said exactly what the battery size is for this vehicle. So we only know an approximation. That gives it a range of about 500 miles. If you remember, there was the Run on Less event orchestrated and organized by the North American Council for Freight Efficiency. There's a website, you can watch the videos. I did my own summary. These things, they do operate. Now, one thing to note on this, you can see it is a very sleek design. The seams and how the body panels fit together, I'm actually really impressed with. It has a drag coefficient reported of 0.36. And what would really help though, is if they could get rid of those mirrors. And I'll show you a truck up the way that does get rid of it, and it has a significantly lower drag coefficient. Next to it is the stainless steel Cybertruck. People love driving that. I've seen a few on the road here in Vegas, so if you're gonna live in Vegas, why not drive one of these? I won't say anything more. Workhorse. Workhorse is had a choppy start to its organization, and they continue to come out with excellent trucks. This one, you can see, it looks ready for work. One question, why don't they put their name on it more prominently or a nice wrap on it? But it is a step van, about 1,000 cubic feet of cargo area in this thing. It is all electric, and they are looking to sign some deals here at the Advanced Clean Transportation Expo. Here's one of many electric yard tractors. So imagine you've got a big operation. Where I live in Detroit, there's a Stellantis plant that builds vehicles. There's like a north and a south part of the complex, and they use tractors like this to drive the trailers back and forth and move goods ready for the assembly line and stage them at the assembly plant. They used to use diesel trucks. Those are noisy and they produce particulate matter in the community surrounding it. They're using natural gas, which is cleaner burning, but an electric makes total sense. They don't go very far. They don't leave the yard. So if you put a charger there, it's always gonna be within, I don't know, 300-400 yards of that charger. So it's a really good application, and you're gonna see a few of them. Blue Arc. I did a YouTube short on this just in the wee hours of the morning. This vehicle is another step van, all electric. It's by the Shyft group. So the Shyft group knows commercial trucking. They have a number of different parts of their organization that builds bodies and other components that go into this. They put this together, this all-electric step van, and they just recently signed a deal with FedEx. So FedEx is going to buy 150 of these for their operations. Where they operate, I'm guessing they'll operate them in the West Coast in California. So I don't know that I'll get to see one. They've always done a really good job, I think, of presenting this truck to the public and at these trade shows. So I had a chance to drive one at the Work Truck Week this year or last year, I forget which it was, but it's definitely a cool vehicle and well-deserved win for them to get some of those on the road and get some real-world experience. Battle, so this is more of a city tractor, not a yard tractor. So this is the type of tractor trailer, pulling the trailer that can go out into the city area. Again, it's very compact. This is a zero emission battery electric version of it. And quite honestly, I've always loved the looks of this, but that's why you don't see a very aerodynamic shape to it, very functional and utilitarian, is because it doesn't need to go on the highways. It probably spends most of its time doing short trips, lots of stop and go. And there's some other applications for this. I should probably do a video on them. They do some cool stuff with this platform, doing like trucks that can pull and haul away dumpsters and tow trucks and things like that. So really cool set of applications for this. And here's the other Tesla Semi. No, this is the Windrose R600. I'm definitely gonna go and do a comparison of this to the Tesla Semi because, yeah, it does look a little bit alike, right? But you know what? That happens sometimes. You see that complaint come up a lot in the West, that Chinese manufacturers are just copying the Western designs. But if a design is aerodynamic, the wind doesn't care. So they just said, you know what? It looks good. It looks like it would work. Why not replicate it? So it is actually more aerodynamic per the manufacturer's claim than the Tesla Semi. So how did they do that? The lower grille actually looks bigger on this than the Tesla Semi, but it's those mirrors. You can see this vehicle was designed first for the China market. They've been going strong into Europe and doing lots of demonstrations, trying to win business there. And in both those countries, they allow digital side view mirrors. So compare that, mentally go back and think about what you saw with the Tesla Semi. This thing is just way more slippery because it doesn't have those big bricks on the side. Now, I did get a chance to ride in this and in the Tesla Semi. Both of them have digital side view cameras. For Tesla, if the laws change in the US, and the regulators have been looking at it to see if that's something they would allow, it will probably happen here in the US. Whether it happens in a year or 10 years, who knows? But the drag coefficient claimed on this, if you remember, is 0.36 for the Tesla Semi, 0.2755. That's kind of ridiculous. Still a center driving position. And as I like to point out, one hilariously large wiper. Actually, it's not all that large, is it? Up top here on the inside, that's a kind of a sunroof. And the representatives didn't want me taking pictures of the inside. There are images online that you can just go see anyway. But they said they wanted to come to this show to try and gain experience about what fleet operators are looking for and what's important to them. So they wanted to ask questions rather than say, here's what we have to offer. It's interesting on the side, this offers up to 960 kilowatts. They're working with a BorgWarner a charger in China, and that's the claim. Tesla claims they can do megawatt charging. But again, at that Run on Less event, if you look at the PepsiCo operations in Sacramento, the Tesla Semi was charging more like 700 on 750 kilowatt charging hardware. But again, that's ridiculously fast. So this Semi features 2 charge ports. This one, that is, you might think, oh, that's CCS2. It's actually, well, it's GBT. So this is the China standard for DC charging on the one side, and there's a charge port on the other side. So I'm gonna swing around. This is a quasi sleeper cab. It does have seats in the back, kind of a bench seat that can be converted to lay down, and that's one of the questions They wanted to ask customers, is that something they'd be interested? So you could see there's not that big void in the back like the Tesla Semi. It's filled with passenger space. The other charger over here, the CCS2, the familiar North American, was going to try to be a standard. This is the CCS, I said CCS2, this is CCS1. This is the combined charging system that we use in North America until Tesla opened up NACS, and that's still the direction that everybody's going. Now let me tell you about the battery. I said Tesla Semi is probably about 900. This is 729 kilowatt hours, so smaller battery that produces less range. The R600 name comes from the range, 600 kilometers, which is 373 miles. That's how they name it. And that's a common designation for naming in China for cars and trucks, is to use the number of the range in there. But the range on these trucks, there's not a particular test schedule, so it's really more of a promise between the manufacturer and the customer that says, yeah, I think you'll get 373 miles, partially loaded, reasonable terrain, your mileage may vary, cold, you're gonna get less, things like that. So this is a quad motor system with more power than what we believe the Tesla Semi has. Now, Tesla has said their motors could be ramped up to produce more power, but they were detuned because they just don't need it. That was from an interview with Priestley, who's the project manager, and Jay Leno, I think, if you remember that video. 1,395 horsepower from the quad motors. Now, I had to look to make sure, but when you hear quad motor, you think motor, 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 motor. That's not the case. This is actually, with this solid axle, there's two motors on the differential. So you see that a lot. It's called an E-axle, where the motor is mounted directly to what would be the differential and providing input into that ring gear. They have two motors, one front, one back, one front, one back on each axle set. So that's how they get four motors. So they can't independently turn. This thing's not gonna tank turn if that's what you were hoping for, although that would be kind of hilarious, wouldn't it? So again, this truck, they have not announced plans. Obviously, with the new round of tariffs, something like this would probably be difficult. They would much more likely to be finding a partner to try to manufacture with. So why not bring it here, drum up some interest, get some people talking, and yeah, see where things go. From that, we transition to Mullen. Whoa. So this is a class 1 van. You know, I think I'm gonna drive this thing. I saw a couple people driving around. If you need a city electric vehicle for delivering flowers and picking up parcels, very functional, not all that good looking, but again, let's see where that goes. Mullen also owns Bollinger Motors. So Bollinger, if you recall, they had the B1 and B2 SUV. So those were, that was a really great looking utilitarian Hummer, electric Land Rover, whatever you want to call it. They put concepts together, they showed them at auto shows, they had some pre-orders, but they just couldn't make the business case for it. What they could do, though, is to take all that learning on how to make a durable, functional, dependable truck, all electric, and put it into this. This is the B4. So this is a class 4 electric cab over. They buy the cab from a separate manufacturer, up to a gross vehicle weight rating of 15,500 pounds, 185 miles of range from a 158 kilowatt hour battery. It's actually two batteries paired together. So each one is 79 kilowatt hours. You can see it would be, there's usually one between the frame and then one beneath it. So it can be configured to add more. Often what you'll see on these trucks is you'll have the kind of the standard batteries there, and if you need another one, they can put it behind the axle. So that's a common area where you could put something like this. So really good looking vehicle. It's got a Dana E-axle. So Dana as in like Dana Spicer, if you're familiar with Jeeps and off-road vehicles and stuff like that. It has a Mobileye ADAS system. So Mobileye's a high-tech company you may be familiar with that working with a lot of Chinese manufacturers too. So really good, functional, all-electric vehicle for a variety of use cases. I mentioned yard trucks. Here's another one. This is from Capacity Battery Electric, like the other one. So it doesn't need an extra cab. That's why they have it configured this way. So for the test drives, first of all, you need to have a CDL license. And second of all, sometimes they'll have a representative just kind of hanging out the back. There's a back door on these things, usually just to let more air in them. That's curious. I don't know if they are air conditioned or not. Now, fuel cell semi-trucks are kind of making a comeback, or at least they're trying to give it a go. There's a couple of them coming up that I'm going to point out. Here's the first one in the line. So fuel cells, the most efficient way they can use that hydrogen is to put it into a fuel cell and then it becomes an electric vehicle. I did kind of a short on the Toyota system, and I guess what you need to know is they're going to give it a go, see if they can prove it out, but there's still a lot of bugs to work out, not so much on the truck side, but on the production of hydrogen and on the distribution of it. Rivian got permission from their biggest customer, Amazon, to go ahead and say, hey, if you want to sell some of these vehicles to the other customers, go ahead. It's a good truck. You've got the capacity. Go for it. So this is the EDV. I think this is the 500. So this is their shortest version of it. They make a 700, which roughly equals the cubic feet of capacity that the vehicle is capable of carrying. My favorite feature of the Mack is the copper colored Bulldog. So going through my notes here, this is the Mack MD Electric. So this is their medium duty. And every time it shows up at a show, it always looks good. I'm sure somewhere there's a boring white colored one as well, but they always either, upfit it with that gorgeous chromed dump in the back, or they put something else on it. So this is also all electric. You can kind of get a sense of the trend here. Electric is really taking off for these vehicles, and not only does it help meet the requirements, but they're showing and proving that they're getting the job done. So we'll see more of this in the inside. Volvo construction equipment, and I got an appointment with them later today, so I definitely want to do a video on what they're doing for electric construction equipment, wheel steer, there was a roller in there as well. Really interesting, fun stuff. One of my favorite startup companies is Lion Electric. I just kind of dig the vibe from this truck. Kind of like the Battle. It's got like that squared off butch look, but this is a chassis cab configuration where you can put a variety of different upfits on the back for whatever purpose you might need. I've seen pictures of this where it's being used as an ambulance. So Lion is a Quebec company. This is the Lion 5. This can be configured as a Class 5 or Class 6. So it has a range of up to 190 miles, 0 to 80 charging in 90 minutes, which I'll have to compliment the truck manufacturers. They seem to be gravitating towards 0 to 80% battery charging as like the standard. Like, why would you not specify it all the same way? I don't think there's any law saying they have to, but that's just the case, and it makes it easy to compare then the various vehicles. So this has a 210 kilowatt hour battery, and this is their own. You can see it's actually, it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and more in the back. Like I said, this is kind of a configuration you'll see where the standard battery configuration might be there. If you want the long range version, they squeeze another set of batteries back here in the back. And it is their own battery pack. Previously, it was interesting, they were using BMW i3 batteries. Remember the BMW i3 electric vehicle? Well, as it started winding down, I guess it had extra capacity, and there were a number of truck manufacturers and bus manufacturers of electrics that wanted to use those batteries. So they said, yeah, we'll sell them to you as long as we keep making them. Eventually they came back to those companies and said, here's the date where we're going to stop making them. At the Work Truck Show in March of this year, they were still showing off a model that had the BMW batteries in them. And they said, yeah, this is kind of our last batch, if you will. Going forward, they want to use their own, they are going to use their own batteries. I believe those are manufactured in Quebec. Just an interesting note that this is actually, I think this is a heater system. Is it diesel fuel or kerosene? I forget. But for vehicles like this, in order to warm up the battery, obviously they're a Quebec company, they know how to operate in the cold. To do the battery preconditioning to warm it up and to warm up the cab even, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One of it is you use the batteries to warm it up. Well, that's going to drain them down. Or an auxiliary heater. So that only gets operated when in cold conditions. You see that as well in school buses. Those, obviously, you have to heat up the whole cab so the kids don't catch a cold or anything. When I did the video the first time, I don't know, a little bit of a brain fart. I'm like, what vehicle is this? I saw the name ALO, that's the logistics company, but it's the Nikola. So the Nikola semi-truck, this is the fuel cell version, so hydrogen fuel cell. The wrap looks really good. If you recall, they first came out with a BEV, a battery electric version of it, with a different cab. It used a different cab configuration. It was still a cab over, but it was a different generation of cab that they were buying from another truck manufacturer. This is the fuel cell version, so they had some problems with the battery quality and had to do a recall that gave them a black eye. So it seems like they're doubling, tripling, and going all in on this, like I said, kind of a trend or mirage of hydrogen fuel cell semi-trucks having their day and making a reality of cleaner transportation, long-haul trucking. That really seems to be the use case that people think they're going to have a place for. The idea of driving your kids to school in a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, you know, forget about it. It ain't going to happen. Medium-duty trucks, you know, like that Mack, there are a couple companies, actually Ford, Ram, and GM are all doing experiments with hydrogen fuel cell medium duty truck like the Class 5 Ford F550, but we'll see what happens with that. Now, RIZON, my first reaction was this is another Chinese manufacturer, and again, I'm wrong on this, so this is just my gut instinct. Not heard of them before, not like I'm an expert, but then it's like I start to look in like, oh, wait a second, this is a Daimler truck brand. And I haven't been over to the booth to get them to say, yes, it is, but this is actually the Mitsubishi Fuso e-Canter. So that's a vehicle for the Japan market, a battery electric, and other markets in Asia. It's part of the Mitsubishi Fuso truck brand, which is part of Daimler Truck. And Daimler Truck has a lot of different components. I'll get down to them in a minute. They're cleaning up their trucks. They do a real good job of keeping their trucks clean. Anyway, this has 160 miles of range, and it's a class 4 or 5. So similar to that truck I showed earlier, the Bollinger, similar competitor. This one is upfitted with a box on the back. So this might be something in a more urban area. If you were getting a dishwasher or refrigerator delivered to your house, something like this could come up. My favorite yard tractor, is the orange EV. I don't know why. I think it's just a logo. I think it's a great logo. And I just noticed now, it's the HUSK-e. Wow, isn't that cute? I actually have a husky German Shepherd mixed dog that we got from a rescue in our house. She's super nice, super cute, super anxiety around thunder, and she sheds like a demon this time of year. Moving on, international, another medium duty. This could be a class 6 or class 7 truck. So similar to that Mack that I showed you down the line. And I drove this one previously. This is the MV Electric. So they have their MV series, which is super popular for international. And this is their electric version of it that's been fitted with a kind of a truck body in the back. This one, let me see if I can find the specs on this one. It's a great looking color too, I'll just be honest. Here in Las Vegas, we got the early morning sun just blaring down. It's been quite the show so far. Another semi truck. This is a hydrogen fuel cell by Hyundai. So this one, again, like the others, this one happens to be cab over. Cab overs in North America, just not as popular from a use case. But again, Hyundai, they might want this for their home market, for other markets in Europe. Now, there have been issues with the price of hydrogen. Some of these trucks started going into limited test service, and then all of a sudden the price of hydrogen got really expensive, in part because of the war in Ukraine, the attack on Ukraine, and other issues that caused people to either suspend those test trials or just to rethink that. So again, it's part of the overall trend, if you will, of giving hydrogen another go, particularly in these larger trucks. Real quick, I didn't give the fair shake to the international MV Electric. 210 kilowatt hour battery. That's LFP chemistry, so lithium iron phosphate. That's heavier but more robust, and you can charge it to 100% every day, and it is cheaper. So it's a good application. Dana, I had mentioned them before, their TM4 electric motor, they use that in this configuration as well, and it gets a range of about 135 miles. And it's one of those things, whether it's a school bus or a vocational truck, you know, it's always a question of how far do you really have to go, and sometimes it surprises you how little you have to go. So there's a Kenworth there, and that one is actually a compressed natural gas. And then we have a partnership between Toyota and Kenworth putting out this hydrogen fuel cell truck. I did a short on this one, kind of a really high level explanation of what's going on. Just in summary, hydrogen goes there. There's 6 carbon fiber wrapped cylinders that go in that stack area. So if you were to take that off, there's like a big truss system to hold those up. Actually, I don't see why anybody's gonna stop me. There we go. So you can see all the plumbing for those carbon fiber cylinders. And it's interesting, they're not as pretty on this truck, the production one. When they do the booth model, it's all black carbon fiber. It's really kind of sweet looking. The hydrogen then gets plumbed to the front. There's 2 fuel cell modules. One is more squarish, a box shaped, and then the other is a flat shaped, so it fits between the rails. So the hydrogen goes from there to the fuel cells. It gets converted to electricity by mixing it with oxygen from the atmosphere, and then that goes to the batteries. This truck still has batteries. Now it has smaller batteries than a semi that would be competing against that if it's a battery electric. Remember I mentioned that Windrose had like 780 something. The Tesla probably has around 900 kilowatt hours. It is a smaller battery, but hydrogen fuel cell trucks still need a battery because the fuel cells don't put out power very quickly. And to do acceleration and going up hills, you need that extra power. So it still has a battery that then feeds in to the electric motor. The version they showed inside was actually a single electric motor mounted to an automatic transmission. Let's see if it's probably this. I can't see it under there. It's probably the same configuration. Most electric trucks right now are just doing a single speed, so a single gear reduction, but occasionally they do 2 speeds. Volvo does a 2-speed on their VNR electric, and also there's suppliers inside like Eaton, like ZF. that are promoting the use of multi-speeds because they do have such a wide range of operating conditions, whether it's going really slow for garbage pickup or really fast on highways. Having those extra gear ratios does add to some of the efficiency. Ram, this is their ProMaster EV. This is the cargo package delivery. This is their package delivery, as they call it. It's got a super high roof. I did a review on this, so if you want to check out my channel, I did a very extensive review of all the specs of this one. But so it's got that super high roof. It's got a bulkhead sliding to keep the packages in the back. It's got this sliding rear door. All of this can be bought from the factory, so you don't have to send it out for separate upfitting, and has the large rear rolling door. It's almost as if Ram, who has been selling gas versions of the ProMaster to Amazon, they basically said, we'll do the same thing for our electric version and we'll have it come right from the factory. So this is kind of, you could say, their Amazon special, trying to eat into some of that Rivian business. BYD makes buses in North America. They do final assembly of them in California, and they've won a significant amount of business. So this is a Type A bus. This will compete with things like a Ford Transit converted into a bus, or like a Chevy Express, their van cutaway model converted into a bus. This is all electric, and this uses their battery components, their motor components, all of those things put into a smaller bus format. If you're not familiar, I also did a video on electric school buses. Type A, B, Type C is kind of the bus I think most people think of when they look at buses on the road. That's the long version. And then a Type D is the longest version, which has a flat front nose to get a couple of extra rows of seating into that. So this, like I said, this is winning a lot of business for the smaller bus segment. And they do have models that are larger than that, but they're competing with companies like IC Bus, who is here, Bluebird Bus, who is here, and who else am I missing? A Lion Electric. Lion Electric does school buses. So Thomas Bus, they do the Jewel E. So all of the traditional school bus manufacturers are trying to protect their business and make battery electric versions, and they're being very successful at it, in part because of the government grants associated with that. The government is, some cases, depending on what model and what you qualify for, they're getting essentially a free bus plus charging for some of these applications. Now, like I said, it's not all electric, not all hydrogen fuel cell. This is the Starship. This thing's actually pretty sweet looking. This is by Shell, Cummins. They wanted to maximize the efficiency of a combustion engine truck. So this is essentially what they came out with. And yeah, it's a really nice paint job. You can see, again, this one has mirrors, digital camera mirrors, not reflective glass mirrors, which helps with the aerodynamics. Freightliner, this is the Freightliner custom chassis. So mentioned before that that truck down before, the Mitsubishi Fuso, the electric version of it, RIZON, that is available now in North America. This is also part of the Daimler Truck empire, if you will. Daimler Truck, formerly Mercedes-Benz, Daimler-Benz, they got spun off into its separate truck operations, and they have a number of brands, including Freightliner. And I'll also talk about Detroit Diesel. So Freightliner custom chassis, they make this step van. The body of it they buy, but the underlying chassis, the powertrain, all of that is they're doing. This is a step van again. So this is yet another application. So this is a walk-in Class 4 all the way up to a Class 6. So if you wanted to do just package delivery, FedEx, UPS, you could configure something like this probably as a Class 4. Or if it was heavier duty applications, maybe this is like a repair truck that goes out and has to carry heavy equipment and welders. You make it a little bit heavier duty. 246 kilowatt hour battery. Again, uses the Dana TM4 electric motor, so a legacy axle manufacturer and driveline component manufacturer, has really gotten in strong to the electric motor business. About 180 miles of range. Freightliner Cascadia, this is the e-Cascadia. So this is obviously a very popular truck in North America and a big seller for Freightliner. And this is their all-electric version. Like the Tesla Semi, its max GVWR is 82,000 pounds. This is a 6x4 configuration. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wheel pairs or wheel positions, and the rear 2 axles are driven. I think I'd climbed around on this one before. So that means up to 438 kilowatt hour battery. So what, roughly half the size of the Tesla Semi, but this is geared more towards regional trucking. So there is a lot of trucking that takes place going from the distribution warehouse for your grocery store to the individual grocery store. So it might be you fill up the tractor, you fill up the trailer, at the warehouse with vegetables and fruit and food, and then you distribute it to maybe 1, 2, or 3 grocery stores. So that's the kind of application where you're going to take a lot of trucks off the road and you're going to replace it with something that doesn't put out particulate matter into the community. This is, as I mentioned before, Detroit Diesel is a diesel engine manufacturer, but they too have gotten into the e-axle business. So this is a Detroit e-axle. Spin around here, maybe get a better view of this. It is their axle assembly, super heavy duty, and they mount to the front of that one electric motor, kind of like the Windrose has 1, 2. This is a more traditional setup for an e-axle where you have an axle with an electric motor mounted to the front, driving that ring gear and those wheels. So again, that's kind of the transition of companies and vehicles to this new form of e-mobility. About 220 to 230 miles, so half the battery size and about half the range of the Tesla Semi. And now we get to the Freightliner M2. And the M2 is a popular, let me go around the front here. The M2 is a popular medium duty truck for Freightliner, and this is their electric version. And wow, fantastic paint job. Look at the sparkle in that. Actually, I'll give compliments to Daimler Truck. They were out here early, charging, cleaning, making these things look absolutely beautiful. So, but let me tell you a little bit about this. Like that international MV Electric, this is the EM2E for electric. It has up to 291 kilowatt hour battery. That's the Class 7 version. If you go into the Class 6, a smaller version, it's got a smaller battery, 194 kilowatt hours. What does that mean? 180 to 250 miles of range approximately, and charging, depending on which battery you have, 0 to 80% in 1 hour. The bigger battery takes 1.5 hours. And again, from a spec standpoint, it is nice that they don't try to sweep things under the rug. It seems like they're all using that 0 to 80% capacity. And we are charging the trucks, just topping them off. That's an Altel 40 kilowatt DC. Now, why not a fast charger? Well, 2 reasons. Actually, a lot of these commercial trucks, they don't need to charge fast, but they just need to charge overnight or over a couple of hours. So a 40, 50 kilowatt DC charger, or in some cases even a high amperage level 2 charger does the job. But also, just from a practicality standpoint, they had to run in electricity, so it's there's probably limited as far as how much they can get out to the yard. Quickly though, I did see another truck that I wanted to talk about. I got a chance to drive it yesterday and I've been waiting to drive it. They were charging out here. That is the Electric. Again, if you want to check out my channel, I'll have a video on this one coming up soon. Fantastic vehicle. So why do I say it's fantastic? Well, what commercial class 4 or 5 work truck has 4-wheel independent suspension? None that I can think of. Well, What truck has four-wheel disc brake by wire? None that I can think of. What truck has four-wheel quad motor setup by wire, of course? Not that I can think of. And lastly, it has four-wheel steering, steer by wire. It's a startup company that is approaching commercial trucking from a tech company standpoint, a tech company mindset. And that's what they came up with. Penske just put an order in for first delivery, so it's gonna see real world use cases, and they'll be able to find out what works great, what doesn't, and improve on that.